Hello. Hello. So this is so funny because I've had several people actually ask me uh, lately if about diet and nutrition and long COVID and myalgic encephalomyelitis, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia. And so I was actually planning on talking about it already anyway before they asked, because I'm going to be interviewing Dr. Sarah Myhill next week. So that interview will be available soon here. And she is an expert in the area of diet and nutrition for people with chronic fatigue syndrome and these post-viral syndromes. So we're going to be talking diet and nutrition anyway for a very long period of time, for an hour. We're not going to talk about diet and nutrition the whole time, but we're going to go into a lot more depth than I can go into here, because this is a big subject. Food, right? It's so interesting that we have such intense experiences with our food. So there is definitely a way of eating that is going to be beneficial to you to do if you have long COVID or chronic fatigue syndrome or any of these types of syndromes or illnesses. And the main thing to start off with is to cut out any sugar. I personally recommend low carb as well. Cut out any coffee, cut out alcohol. Alcohol is sugar. Go ahead and cut out any grains whatsoever, because at this point, we don't know how your body's responding to things. Which brings us to what's called an elimination diet. And basically what that means is that you start out with just ruminant meats. So ruminants are animals that have 4 stomachs. So this includes cow, this includes lamb, this includes deer, so venison, veal. What's the other one I was thinking of? Well, camel, but I don't think. If you're watching this video, you probably don't have access to camel, but you might. Who knows? So anyway, those types of animals, you can Google it to find out what they are. But no dairy either. So basically you're looking at cows, beef is easy to come by, lamb is relatively easy to come by, things like that, and no dairy products. So to begin with, you're eating ruminant meat and salt and water. Meat and fat, and I'm a big proponent of fat, especially for these types of illnesses, for autoimmune illnesses. Fat is very important. So suet is what raw animal fat is called, and tallow, or what raw beef fat basically is called, and tallow is, it's just been melted, but also typically it's been purified a little bit as well. If you can get your hands on suet, I really highly recommend it. You can get it at your local butcher. I ask my butcher to grind it up for me because otherwise it's just in these big chunks. So I get them to grind it up for me like hamburger, and they do that for me. I apologize about the computer fan right now. It's super loud. I forgot to plug in my microphone. So yes, so you start out with this elimination diet with just these beef products, right? Or ruminant products. And you do that for a week. And then you slowly start to add things in. So maybe you, on day 8, you add in a couple of eggs. And then for the next 2 days after that, you only eat the meat, water, and salt again, because it oftentimes takes our bodies a couple of days to even register any sensitivities. Like we can't tell sometimes until a good ways afterwards. So then if you're still okay after those 2 days, after you've had those eggs, then you can maybe start folding them back into your regular diet. Now, overall, so when I first got sick, I was actually a vegetarian. I've been a vegetarian for 8 years. I also, though, when I was in college and a vegetarian, I would, after a couple of drinks, I would sneak into the refrigerator and eat all of my roommates' meats. So that should have told me something, maybe perhaps then. But what I actually came to was that I started working with a nutritionist at some point, and she said, you have to start eating meat. Your body needs the specific amino acids that are in, especially red meat, that can't be found in anything else. So I did, and the first thing that I tried was lamb. And bless him so much, because he took care of me for the first 3 years, basically, that I was sick, and we were 23 years old. But he was, he had an interesting sense of humor. And so when I first started eating meat again, that lamb, he made sheep noises the whole time, which was no fun for me. So that was my entrance into eating meat again for the first time in 8 years. But what I found was that I could tell a difference energetically within even, I think, a couple of hours at that point. Now, it didn't cure me. I did still have, I was still sick after that for seven or so years, but it took me from crawling to get to the bathroom to being able to get there at least a little more easily at that point. So I started out with a paleo diet, which means meats, any kind of meat, and mostly green leafy vegetables, really any hunter-gatherer kind of thing. Now, I found that I did not do well with carbohydrates. So I have been very low carb for a really long time now. So I've been like 95% paleo for a while. I did try keto a couple of years ago, and it was very confusing to me, and I got really super tired for a while. And so I kind of let go of that. But what I've started since I've been sick this time around is called carnivore, which is keto for sure, meaning that it puts you into a ketogenic state. But it means that you only eat meat. That's it. No vegetables. So there's a lot of information that you can find around how vegetables actually have these things like oxalates and salicylates and all these different things in them to deter animals from eating them, right? It's their version of protection. They can't run away, so they do have these things in them. And so, and what I found, actually, the reason that I started doing carnivore was because I was developing sensitivities to, it felt like everything that I was eating, to avocados. I love avocados, and they're full of all the good fat. And, I already said I'm a big fan of fat. So I was becoming sensitive to avocados. I'd already developed a big sensitivity to nuts, to, and spinach has always been kind of weird to me because it does this weird thing to my tongue. And I just found that I couldn't tolerate vegetables actually anymore. And all I wanted to eat was meat. And then I found out all this information about carnivore diet. And so I started doing that. And I can talk more about that at some point. That's a whole other thing. But in the meantime, yes, eliminating sugar, low carb is super important. Taking any grains out, any for right now. You might be able to start to add them back in at some point. Knowing that your body is immune compromised right now, so you're gonna be more sensitive to things. So that elimination diet is really key. it can be confusing. So I'm actually working on developing a step-by-step way that you can do that elimination diet. But if you need just a let's get started right now kind of thing, then take a look at, I think his name is Chris Kressler or Kresser, and he has a good paleo getting started kind of thing. The other thing that I would recommend cutting out is anything with any kind of stimulant in it. Any coffee, any chocolate. I know it sucks, but cut it out for right now. Anything that's going to amp up your body right now, because it's going to deplete you of the good energy that you want to be developing and getting back. So remembering that most of these things, these changes that you're making are going to be, hopefully you don't have to be as strict in the future, but for a while you're going to need to be strict. So let me know if you have any questions. Like I said, I'll put a link below for you to sign up to access the Dr. Myhill interview. That's going to be amazing. She's just an incredible woman full of lots of information about diet and nutrition, and she and I will go into more detail about that. And I'll see you again. Okay.